I told you, the Indiana Fever, if there's one thing they'll do all year, it is fight till the very end, down as much as 15, battling all the way back, taking a 12-point lead, only to watch that 12-point lead, poof, evaporate in a matter of 3 minutes.
Caitlin Clark just played one of the most frustrating yet eye-opening games of her WNBA career, and it had everything: controversy, missed calls, a brutal shooting slump, and an explosive late-game takeover that nearly shocked the league. But it wasn't just the game that had fans furious. It was what didn't happen in the final seconds.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
In a nail-biting 90-88 loss to the powerhouse New York Liberty, Clark and the Indiana Fever found themselves robbed of a fair shot, literally. With the game on the line, Clark took contact that should have drawn a whistle, but the refs? Silent, dead silent.
Some controversy on that last play, no doubt about it. In my opinion, it looked like Natasha Cloud probably fouled her. It was not called. The referees love to swallow their whistles at that time, that part of the game.
And just seconds earlier, the same officials had no hesitation calling a foul against the Fever in almost the exact same situation. It's the kind of inconsistency that fans and players are getting sick of. Hours after the game, Sophie Cunningham posted a cryptic TikTok expressing how she felt about the refs officiating.
But you're so full of shit.
Welp, looks like there might be a fine incoming.
But then again, they did not swallow their whistles with the foul call on Lexi Hall against Sabrina Ionescu just 3 seconds earlier.
Even Fever head coach sat on a challenge she never used, one that could have changed everything. But while the officiating stole headlines, Caitlin Clark was still making noise for another reason. This was her worst shooting night from deep since turning pro.
And Caitlin Clark was 2 of 12 from three-point range.
Caitlin Clark, did not play her best game. 2 for 12 from the three-point line, 6 for 19. Natasha Cloud harassing her. 94 feet, Leonie Phoebish harassing her.
Just 2 for 12 from 3, and yet, Indiana nearly walked away with the upset. Why? Because even when her shot isn't falling, Clark impacts the game in ways you can't teach. Her floor vision, her passes, her timing with Aaliyah Boston, they all turned a potential blowout into a thriller. But that's not all, because what happened next revealed something far bigger than the final score.
It was an extremely physical game, yet the fouls always seem to be called on us. Is it easy for me to start laying into the referees? It is.
The final seconds of this game were chaos, and not in the way fans love. With less than 5 ticks left on the clock, Caitlin Clark came off a screen, received the inbound, and tried to create space against Natasha Cloud.
Then she holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the 4th time on her arm. It's cheating, it's plain as day. The haters will say, she got locked up. Yeah, if you're fouling the whole game. But I'm going through this entire game. The corrupt refs gave this game to New York and they still barely won.
That's when it happened. Cloud made clear contact, body, arms, everything. Clark stumbled back, eyes darting to the official, but the whistle? Nowhere to be found. No call. Game over. Liberty wins.
The refs messed up 3 calls in the last 3 possessions of this game. First, DeWanna Bonner gets absolutely destroyed. No call.
The frustration was instant, not just from Clark, but from every Fever fan in the arena. The same refs had just hit Lexi Hull with a foul against Sabrina Ionescu on the other end only moments before. It raised the question, why the double standard? Why is it that when Clark drives to the basket in crunch time, she doesn't get the same respect as her veteran counterparts?
And this is the worst one. There's 1 foul. There's 2 fouls. Then she holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the 4th time on her arm. It's cheating, it's plain as day. The haters will say, she got locked up. Yeah, if you're fouling the whole game. but I'm going through this entire game. The corrupt refs gave this game to New York and they still barely won.
And then there was the coaching blunder that made things worse. Fever head coach Christy Sides still had a challenge in her pocket. She never used it.
By the way, Stephanie White had a challenge. She didn't bother to use it. She did not bother to use it. You could tell there was real and true offensive contact. It looked like to the face of Lexi Hull. Nah, I'm not going to do it.
Even when Lexi Hull appeared to take an elbow to the face, a moment that could have bought the Fever extra time, extra points, or even momentum, they let it slip.
A 3 off target, batted a lot, bodies on the floor. Clark 1-on-3 trying to split the defense, goes into traffic and reverses it off the glass. And a fearless Caitlin Clark here.
Watch how she uses her body to shield the defender. That's just beautifully done by Caitlin Clark.
The Liberty didn't steal this one by talent alone. They got a little help. And for Clark, who's already no stranger to rough treatment on the court, it was another brutal reminder that she won't be getting superstar whistles anytime soon. But while the final play stole the spotlight, it wasn't even the most shocking part of this game. It gets worse.
Our third quarter was really, really good. Obviously, if we won the quarter by 17 points, that's what put us in a position to have a chance to win. So essentially, we really played one good quarter of basketball and lost to the defending champions by 2. So I guess that's positive. A lot of ways to continue to get better.
Let's be real. This wasn't the Caitlin Clark we're used to seeing. She went just 2 for 12 from beyond the arc. That's not just bad by her standards. It's historically bad. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find a game in her entire college career where she missed that many threes with so little success. And what makes it even more unbelievable, Indiana still nearly pulled off the win.
All right, do you know how few games she will ever be or ever shoot? She may never have another stretch in her career like the one that started in the previous game into this game from the three-point line, right?
Clark's slump didn't start here. It carried over from the previous game, where her rhythm looked completely off. The mechanics were there, the spacing was solid, but the shots just refused to fall. You could see the frustration in her face. Every time she launched, the crowd held its breath, only to watch another brick clang off the rim. But here's what separates good players from elite ones. Even while struggling from deep, Clark was still the engine that made Indiana go. Her vision, her passing, her tempo, she controlled the flow of the game. She racked up 10 assists, many of them threading needles into impossible windows, turning teammates into instant scoring threats. It wasn't flashy, it was surgical. Still, it was a jarring sight. The most electric shooter in women's basketball, ice cold on national television. But here's where it gets crazier, because despite the slump, she unlocked a connection that could change Indiana's entire season.
Caitlin Clark, 18 points, 10 assists. I don't think she had an assist after halftime. If I'm not going crazy, I don't think she had an assist after halftime.
If Caitlin Clark's cold shooting night exposed any silver lining, it was this. Her chemistry with Aaliyah Boston is officially real. What we saw between them wasn't just good, it was dominant. The pick and roll was operating on another level. Clark wasn't just throwing casual passes. She was slinging missiles through tight windows, lobbing dimes with perfect touch, and setting Boston up for some of the easiest buckets of her career.
Let me be the first to say the Caitlin Clark to Aaliyah Boston, the sort of old school pick and roll, Stockton Malone, that works. All right? They've got a very deadly two-man game when they have it working, and Caitlin Clark can sort of be the distributor and the playmaker there, because
Boston finished the night with a monster double-double, 27 points and 13 rebounds. But it wasn't just the stat sheet, it was how she got those numbers. She looked poised, confident. She knew the ball was coming at the right time, in the right spot, because Clark was reading the defense 2 steps ahead. You could almost hear the gears turning. One cut, one glance, and boom. Clark fed Boston for a layup before the defense even rotated. This wasn't some accidental connection. This was calculated, strategic, and dare we say it, it's starting to resemble a classic NBA-style duo. Think Stockton and Malone, Nash and Stoudemire, where one floor general unlocks the beast in the paint. Boston looked better than she did all last season, and Clark made her look like an MVP candidate.
Look, her ability to pass is a huge part of her game, in being a superstar. Here
Let's
we go
go
again, right
in
here.
the pick and roll.
Right here. And there, she's going to split two defenders right there. Another lob. Beautiful.
And this is what should terrify the rest of the league. Even when Clark isn't scoring, she's finding ways to make elite players even more dangerous. The Clark to Boston pipeline has the potential to be the best 1-2 punch in the WNBA if it keeps building, but that's not all, because just when the Liberty thought they had Clark figured out, more players started showing up. While all eyes were glued to Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, two other names quietly helped keep Indiana in the fight, Lexi Hull and Kelsey Mitchell. These aren't the stars you see on every highlight reel, but on this night, they were the difference between a blowout and a nail-biter.
Lexi Hull thrust into the starting lineup for DeWanna Bonner, first change that Stephanie White has done, and Lexi Hull, start off Lexi, you came through for us today. 15 points for Lexi Hull, 2 rebounds.
Lexi Hull brought more than just hustle, she brought fire. Her 15 points weren't flashy, but they were gritty, scrappy, and timely. Whether it was knocking down open shots, chasing loose balls, or making tough defensive stops, Hull looked like she belonged.
You followed Natasha Cloud everywhere, you followed Sabrina Ionescu everywhere, up snap, switched over to Jonquil Jones, I guess I'll play as hard as I can, oh snap, switched over on Brianna Stewart, I guess I'll play as hard as I can. Lexi Hull, this far into the season, is clearly, hands down, most improved player. No doubt about it, folks.
And when Clark needed someone to feed off in the half court, Hull was always ready in the corner or slashing to the rim. She's proving herself as the glue player this Fever squad desperately needs.
Right here, beautiful pass over to Lexi Hull, who had the lay-in.
Then there's Kelsey Mitchell. She matched Hull with 15 points of her own, but her presence was different. She's a walking bucket, the kind of player who can create her own shot out of thin air. But here's the catch. When the ball touches Mitchell's hands, it doesn't always come back out.
By the way, Kelsey Mitchell still has the same problem of dribble, dribble, dribble. If the ball gets to her, there's a chance the ball has gone to die.
Clark hits it.
It will not move.
Teammates and fans alike have noticed it. Her tendency to dribble the air out of the ball before finally deciding what to do. And when you have a generational playmaker like Clark running the floor, that kind of ball stopping can kill momentum fast.
Kelsey Mitchell, 15 points, 6 for 16, 2 for 7 from the three-point line. Kelsey you did play a little bit too fast today, Kelsey, and I'm your biggest defender. I champion it. LeBron had Kyrie, Caitlin's got Kelsey. It is what it is. I can't control it, but I can say today we were maybe a little bit too fast.
Still, Mitchell's ability to get hot and burst gave the Fever multiple scoring options in critical moments, especially when Clark was being swarmed off the ball. She played a key role in keeping New York honest, preventing them from doubling Clark on every possession. But even with solid contributions from Hull and Mitchell, not everything about Indiana's performance was inspiring. In fact, one coaching decision had fans scratching their heads, and it may have cost them the game. The reason this is happening. Let's talk about the coaching. The optics weren't great. You've got a generational talent in Caitlin Clark, a breakout night from Boston, and a team clawing back against a championship favorite. And your lineups look like they're from last season's playbook. It was conservative, hesitant, and the fans noticed.
I think for us, we just have to make sure that we're playing consistent throughout the whole game. It's pretty easy to just say that our, not getting over the hump in that fourth quarter, but I think our start, in that second quarter, they outscored us by a bit, so we have to make sure that our start is better so that when we do get to the fourth quarter, it doesn't have to be this close.
Even analysts on social media were quick to question the Fever's clock management, substitution patterns, and failure to use tools at their disposal. You don't get many shots to knock off a juggernaut like the Liberty, and letting one slip due to coaching passivity is a bitter pill to swallow.
A brutally tough game. A brutally tough game. You would have liked to have seen them win it.
But despite the questionable decisions from the bench, Caitlin Clark made sure the Fever stayed in the fight. And in the third quarter, she completely flipped the script because what happened next reminded everyone why she's already becoming the face of the league. It was late in the third quarter. The Liberty were still clinging to a lead. The Fever looked like they were on the verge of letting the game slip away. And then Caitlin Clark decided enough was enough. The moment that flipped the entire vibe of the arena came when Clark hit one of the most difficult shots of her young pro career, a deep three while being fouled, turning it into a 4-point play that sent the crowd into a frenzy. You could feel the momentum shift instantly. It wasn't just a bucket, it was a statement. She was still here, still dangerous, and still capable of taking over when it mattered most.
This was the big 4-point play from Caitlin Clark.
In this quarter, you're seeing a lot of one-pass shot, no-pass shot possessions for New York. Clark, step back for New York. Clark, step back three. Oh!
Boom.
But she didn't stop there. Clark started carving through defenders like she was back in Iowa. She split double teams, threaded tight spaces in transition, and finished at the rim with finesse. That finger roll, smooth. That lob to Boston over. 2 defenders, surgical. It was like watching a chess master move 5 pieces ahead while everyone else was still playing checkers. And what made it more impressive was how methodical it all looked. She wasn't rushing shots. She wasn't forcing anything. She was reading the defense, manipulating rotations, and punishing any mistake New York made. She played like a star. Who knew her jumper wasn't falling, so she leaned into everything else she does better than almost anyone in the league: vision, feel, and control.
Caitlin Clark is the best when she's got the ball in her hand and she's able to be the playmaker, be the quarterback. All right, whether it's distributing the ball or shooting shots or even driving to the lane.
If there's one issue that continues to haunt the Indiana Fever, it's this. They still don't seem to know how or when to let Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark. Early in the game, she was stationed off the ball far too often. Instead of orchestrating the offense, she was relegated to the wing, waiting for someone else to make a play. And the result? Stagnant possessions, broken sets, and an early lead. But for the Liberty, it's baffling. You have one of the greatest playmakers of her generation, and you're asking her to play catch and shoot like a role player? That's not just bad strategy, it's self-sabotage. It wasn't until the Fever handed her the reins midway through the second quarter that the game finally started to change. Clark's impact as a floor general is undeniable. She sees passes before they open up, knows where defenders are going to rotate, and makes decisions that most players wouldn't even consider attempting. She's not just a scorer, she's a basketball genius. So why keep her on the sidelines of the offense?
Consistency is definitely where we can be a lot better. Feels like every game we've really only put 2 quarters together. We're kind of waiting for that, 4 quarters of really good basketball, and I think it's going to be a learning curve. This group is new. We haven't played a ton together, so but that's what's going to have to happen if we want to beat the really good teams in this league, is you got to find a way to put together 4 really good quarters. There's going to be runs. That's basketball. They're going to go on their runs. We got to be able to find a way to stop them and then respond. So I think that's an area we can certainly improve in.
Sure, there's an argument for resting her legs, reducing turnovers, or trying to develop more balanced scoring. But let's be honest, this team's ceiling is entirely dependent on Clark's hands being on the wheel. When she's running the show, the Fever look dangerous. When she's not, they're average at best. It's a problem that's been showing up all preseason, and now, in close games like this, it's becoming a spotlight issue. You don't draft a generational point guard to use her like a corner shooter. Let's get one thing straight. Nobody likes moral victories, especially not competitors like Caitlin Clark. But if there was ever a game that felt like more than a loss, it was this one. The Indiana Fever went toe-to-toe with the best team in the league. The New York Liberty are stacked. Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquel Jones, Brianna Stewart, Natasha Cloud. It's a super team, and still, with Clark shooting 2 for 12 from 3, with questionable coaching, with the refs swallowing their whistles, the Fever lost by just 2 points. That's not luck, that's resilience. Aaliyah Boston played like an MVP. Clark nearly willed her team back from a double-digit hole. Lexi Hull and Kelsey Mitchell stepped up when the moment called for it. And the crowd believed, because for the first time in years, Indiana basketball feels like it has a future.
We'll have a couple of days to get some work in practice, and we'll use that as an opportunity to look at some of those things. We've got to continue to do what got us here. We got to move the ball. We've got to hit singles, not make home run plays. We have a tendency to try to make the home run play all the time, the dagger or the play that gets the momentum going, or and it doesn't need to be that way. We can make the easy plays. So those were more of the communications, keeping our intensity level on both ends of the floor. You can't relax. The margin for error when you're talking about playing championship caliber teams is so small.
And let's not forget Clark's 3-point shot. It finally started heating up in the final quarter. Her body language changed. Her confidence returned. You could almost see the fire in her eyes. Shooters go through slumps, but shooters like Clark, they don't stay down long, and when she breaks out of it, the rest of the league better watch out, because this wasn't just a hard-fought loss, it was a warning. This game may go down as a loss in the standings, but for the Indiana Fever and for Caitlin Clark, it was a turning point, a 2-point nail-biter against the WNBA's most feared lineup on a night when nothing seemed to go right, still ended with the Fever nearly stealing it, and that speaks volumes. It exposed flaws in the coaching, it revealed how dangerous Clark and Boston can be as a duo, it gave fans a reason to believe that this team, once considered a bottom feeder, might actually be a playoff threat sooner than anyone thought. But more than anything, it showed us who Clark really is. Not just a scorer, not just a headline, but a leader, a fighter, a playmaker who makes everyone around her better, even when her own shot won't fall. And if this is what she looks like during a slump, imagine what's coming next.